Are you confident that this election, at least, will be secure and fair? The binder of documents you declassified regarding the Russia hoax. Do you think that's why the FBI is coming after you with these absolutely political accusations and persecutions? Are you worried about you and your family's safety, Mr. President? How hard is it going to be to drain the corrupt officials and the permanent bureaucrats inside the intelligence community, the FBI and the DOJ?
The greatest Donald Trump interview in history, which has gone mostly under the radar.
MrReagan.
I have designed what I am calling my Trump collection. It's 6 original Trump designs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus a repurposed ad from Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, which I thought was very cool. If you like this stuff, buy some of it. If not, just get a MrReagan mug or an America First t-shirt or a Trump mugshot mug. After all, he is America's most wanted, no matter which side of the political divide you are on. All right, now let's break down this legendary Trump interview. So my buddy Sebastian Gorka interviewed Donald Trump last week, and this interview has gone almost entirely under the radar. And that is a terrible shame, because this interview was legendary. Trump answered a number of extremely interesting questions that I think cut straight to the bone. And I say that this interview went almost entirely under the radar because this interview did make news for one very stupid reason. Okay, we're going to go through this interview and highlight the bombshell questions and answers in one moment. First, of course, I have to sell you something. You'd have to be living under a rock not to have heard that gold has been hitting record highs. That is quite an achievement since gold has been used as money for thousands of years.
I'm going to add to Bitcoin gold. Gold's had a tremendous move here. I think might have been off today, but it's had a tremendous move.
But why is it surging in 2024? Gold thrives when everything else looks shaky, like the dollar, the national debt, overpriced markets, the cost of living, global wars, and an election that will determine whether America makes a comeback or fades into broken border bureaucratic obscurity.
Is gold still a hedge against inflation?
I think you could argue yes.
Gold has traditionally been looked at as something
Bitcoin.
to diversify your portfolio. Own a little bit of gold. And
Priority Gold wants to help you hedge the markets, the swamp, the squad, the Fed, the woke mob, and the Washington insiders who want to destroy your savings. Call 469-405-4140 to learn about gold and get up to $2,500 in free silver, which CNBC suggests may have a bigger upside than gold. You can also text MrReagan to that same number, 469-405-4140, for a free gold report, and again, up to $2,500 in free silver. Don't wait on this. Barron says gold continues to climb. The Wall Street Journal sees more green lights for gold, and the Asia Times says investors are now buying gold as insurance because the likelihood of a black swan event is rising. Look, you can do nothing and hope for the best. We saw how that worked out last time around, or you can protect yourself from Joe Biden's dangerous new world. Call 469-405-4140, or you can text that same number, MrReagan, MrReagan, all one word, 469-405-4140. Call them right now. These guys are going to tell you how to hedge with gold, and you can get up to $2,500 in free silver.
Donald Trump says that any Jewish American who votes for Democrats hates their religion and hates Israel. The 2024 Republican nominee made those comments yesterday during a podcast interview.
Why do the Democrats hate Bibi Netanyahu?
I actually think they hate Israel.
Yes.
I don't think they hate him. I think they hate Israel. When you see those Palestinian marches, even I'm amazed at how many people are in those marches. And guys like Schumer see that, and to him it's votes. I think it's votes more than anything else, because he was always pro-Israel. He's very anti-Israel now. Any Jewish person that votes for Democrats hates their religion, they hate everything about Israel, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
Now suddenly Donald Trump decides that he again will determine, Donald Trump will determine who is a bad Jew.
This also this morning from the White House, they fired back at former President Donald Trump over some controversial, at a minimum, comments that he's made about Jewish voters. They said, quote, "The only person who should be ashamed here is Donald Trump. Donald Trump openly demeans Jewish Americans and reportedly thinks Adolf Hitler did some good things."
This is a guy who has a fondness for Hitler, according to his ex-chief of staff, John Kelly. This is a guy who said there's good people on both sides of Charlottesville. He would turn on Jews in a second if it was in his best interest. I know this could be very controversial. He doesn't care about Israel. He cares about Donald Trump. And how dare you tell me what it takes to be a good Jew or not.
The left is, of course, suggesting that Trump is anti-Semitic, a label that they've tried to apply to him since he first ran in 2016. But these Democrats, they lie about Donald Trump so much that it's actually become a bit boring, like we kind of expected at this point. And look, Donald Trump is obviously not anti-Semitic. So this Israel comment ended up overshadowing the rest of the interview entirely, which is, as I said, just a tragedy because this interview should have made news for a variety of other reasons. Sebastian Gorka asked Donald Trump a number of really hardcore questions, and although Donald Trump answered these questions very diplomatically, his answer revealed some inside stuff that I don't think most Americans are aware of. And also in this video, I want to present you guys a strategy that I've come up with that I think will actually win Donald Trump the election in 2024. So stay tuned for that at the end of the video. Firstly, if you've not ever listened to Sebastian Gorka's show, either on the radio or on Rumble, I highly recommend it. He has honestly got the best show of any conservative in the media right now. I truly believe that. He gets to the core of the matter on every issue, and I'm not just saying that because he is a good friend of mine. I watch Kudlow. I watch Bartiromo. These are my go-to Fox shows. Obviously, Rob Schmidt, Greg Kelly, Bianca Della Garza. These are all great people, and basically everything on Newsmax is great. Glenn Beck is great, Sarah Gonzalez is great, everything on Blaze is great, but Sebastian Gorka's show is like all of those other shows all in one place. And of course, we've got our show that airs every Friday, Make Movies Great Again. And if you've seen this show, you know this is where we review films from the 1980s, 1990s, and sometimes even before that. We just reviewed Beverly Hills Cop 2 and Young Frankenstein, and this week we will be doing Rocky 4, which is going to be a lot of fun. And you know what? We're about to celebrate our 1 year of Making Movies Great Again, so check that out. You can see it on Rumble or the Salem Radio Network. So Sebastian Gorka does this interview with Donald Trump. But why was this interview so earth-shattering? Well, let's go through it.
You are trouncing the current incumbent. You became the nominee with such ease. Are you certain, are you confident that this election at least will be secure and fair?
They've cheated for many years, decades, I hear. I was witness to it the last time, and that was, in my opinion, absolute. It was a disgrace. We won that election. It was a rigged election. How can you win on open borders, high interest rates, a woke military, all the things that they talk about, all electric cars? How about all electric cars? They don't go far, they cost too much, and they're made in China. So how can they win with what they do? Their policies are so bad. The thing they do best is cheating at elections. So they're going to try and rig it. I have no doubt about it.
So Trump confirms, and he seems 100% confident, that the left will try to rig 2024. I don't think this comes as any surprise to anyone, but I think this is the first time I have heard Donald Trump say this in an interview. Should that concern us? I mean, yes, of course, but I also think that it should comfort us to know that the Trump team is expecting this, and hopefully countermeasures are being taken to neutralize this as much as possible.
I've seen you say it at Mar-a-Lago, at CPAC, and elsewhere. You joke about what they're doing to you, the weaponization of the FBI and the judiciary. Our good friend and colleague, Kash Patel, and Lee Smith have theorized that the raid against you, sir, the only president to ever be raided by armed agents of the FBI, was over the binder of documents you declassified regarding the Russia hoax. Do you think that's why the FBI is coming after you with these absolutely political accusations and persecutions?
It could be. You don't know. It's very deeply seated. You know, when I fired Comey and a lot of other people, you know, I fired a lot of people that were bad for us. But Comey in particular, he was the head of the FBI, a disaster. It was a disaster. He was the one with Hillary Clinton where nothing rose to the occasion. They had her so-called. But with me, I mean, if you take a look at what they did with her, you look at a double standard. I mean, the ultimate is Biden. He had many, many, many times more documents, more everything. He had no security, no nothing. They were on the garage floor of a flimsy garage with no Secret Service. I had Secret Service all over the place. He had his documents sent to Chinatown.
Yeah.
And those boxes were used. Did you look at those boxes?
I saw the Zappos box.
Like
I saw
the daily basis.
The busted up Zappos box in which he kept top secret information.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at that. It was really. But you look at that as a double standard. You take a look this is not justice, and they let him off the hook. And I did nothing wrong because I come under the Presidential Records Act. I did absolutely nothing wrong. Plus, Mar-a-Lago is a secure place, and you have Secret Service here because I'm president, and when I'm not president, I have a lot of Secret Service here, and all of the other things. And he gets off scot-free, and with me, I have to go through a process, but I think it's going to work out fine because I did nothing wrong coming under the Presidential Records Act, which he didn't come under. But think of it, they let him off scot-free and no problem. And with me, I have to go through a process. It's a disgrace what's happening in this country. The good news is the people see it. They see it. And we have the highest poll numbers I've ever had. I mean, that's good. We knocked off all the Republicans quickly in record time. You know, that was record time.
Yes.
I don't know if you keep score of things like that, but it was the fastest ever. And that's good. And now we're focused on one person, and that's Biden, crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country. We have never had a worse president. And, you know, I say oftentimes at a rally or wherever, if you took the 10, I used to say 5 worst. Now I say 10 worst. I think I could go up to 15 pretty soon. I think I will. If you took the 10 worst presidents and added them up, they wouldn't have done the damage that this man has done to our country.
But
and I think you believe that.
But do you think it's him that...
So Trump is asked about the binder. Now, the existence of this binder is speculative. That is, Trump is rumored to have a binder of incriminating evidence. The FBI is rumored to have raided Mar-a-Lago to get this binder back. The binder supposedly has evidence to take down Brennan and a lot of other high-ranking folks in the Obama administration, including perhaps Joe Biden and even Barack Obama himself. But as I say, it's speculative. It's rumored. So pay attention to how Trump responds here. Trump answers the question primarily by discussing the double standards in the judicial system, his persecution at the hands of Democrats in D.C. And of course, this is very important. But notice the first thing he says when asked about the binder of incriminating evidence. He says, it could be.
It could be. You don't know. It's very deeply seated.
Now, his voice to me sounds a bit skeptical. So that makes me think that this theory is wrong. It makes me think that Trump has another theory as to why Mar-a-Lago was raided, and he doesn't really buy this one. However, Trump did not deny the existence of the binder. He didn't outright confirm it, but his initial reaction is, it could be, thus indicating that the binder does exist, because if no such binder existed, well then, it could not be. He would probably have responded with something like, no, I don't think so. Or maybe he would have presented an alternative explanation for the raid, but he didn't. He specifically left the window open for the possibility that this binder does exist. And look, I don't want to infer that this for sure indicates the existence of the binder, but it does give me a little bit more hope that the binder does exist. And gosh, I really hope that this binder exists.
I just want to raise one issue that is of concern to serious individuals and patriots. My good friend Dan Bongino, who you know is a former Secret Service agent, both he and Alan Dershowitz, who's a Democrat, on my show, have both voiced their serious concerns for your safety. Are you worried that the left are so insane with regards to Antifa, the normalization of violence, about you and your family's safety, Mr. President?
Well, I've found Secret Service to be great, and I watch it very closely. I think they're great people. I know many of the agents, and, you know, I've had many, many agents, and I find them to be doing a great job. I would tell you otherwise. I wouldn't even want them otherwise. They have really found, I think they're very outstanding people. Now, in every agency, you have people that aren't so outstanding, right? I mean, no matter what you do, no matter how you play it. But I found them to be terrific, absolutely.
Good. So the big news of the first 24 hours of your next presidency, if we make it happen, God willing, is what happens in Ukraine with regards to Russia. Could you talk to us about the art of the deal when it comes to stopping the bloodshed in Europe?
Sure. Before I do that, I just want to add one other thing on Secret Service.
Yes.
They just totally refuted the Cassidy Hutchinson, who I barely knew. I wouldn't even know what she looks like, except I've seen her after the fact. But Cassidy Hutchinson's ridiculous story that I essentially attacked two Secret Service, nice, young, strong guys. I'm attacking them. in the front of, I think she called it the Beast when it wasn't the Beast.
No.
It was a different kind of a car, but she originally, I believe, said it was the Beast. But think of it. She makes up this story. They refuted it in its entirety and strongly. Now, the problem is the J6 committee of, I call it the unselect committee. They're unselect. The unselect committee destroyed all the evidence and everything. They destroyed everything. I hear that Cassidy Hutchinson changed a lot of her testimony, and I say, what's going to happen to her? She made up testimony that I was attacking two very powerful, physically powerful people. And a lot of my friends said, oh, gee, I never knew you were that much into fighting. You know, I like watching UFC, but they didn't know. They said, I never knew you were that into fighting. But the whole thing was such a fake story, and it was made up. It was just made up. And Secret Service totally refuted it. And so I do want to say that because it's important. Because I found them to be very reliable, very good.
So Gorka is asking him here, essentially, does Trump expect an attempted hit against him? Does he expect JFK or Abe Lincoln treatment? Now, this is a delicate question because you don't want to say anything that might encourage this behavior, but I think that Trump's answer, although diplomatic, was very telling. He didn't say yes or no. He simply said, I have the greatest security. The Secret Service is fantastic. They will protect me whatever happens. And I think this says a lot because it's an ugly reality that somebody might want to eliminate Donald Trump. But the reality is that there are some very evil people in this world, and I suspect that they will do literally anything to keep Donald Trump out of power. And so by not answering this question, I think that Donald Trump did answer this question. He does expect this, but he also expects that the Secret Service will protect him. And I think you all share my sentiment when I say, I pray that he is right.
My question is, what happens internally, Mr. President? Because we see you facing 700 years in prison on trumped-up charges. We see Catholics being surveilled by the FBI because they go to Latin Mass. We see 250,000 of illegal warrantless surveillance on people who simply are supporters of you, Mr. President. How hard is it going to be to drain the corrupt officials and the permanent bureaucrats inside the intelligence community, the FBI and the DOJ? Because changing the leadership will not be enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, the leaders are going to have to make those changes, and they're going to have to do a very complete job. I made a lot of changes, but that swamp is deep. Look, Comey was a big change. You know, getting rid of Comey was not something that was and I did it very early. You know, a lot of people said you should have done it sooner. Well, you know, I did it very early, within a few months. And I saw that with Hillary Clinton, what he did, how he did that. The whole Hillary thing was so sad. And indirectly, it ended up hurting her. You know why? Because the FBI revolted on him. When he went up there and he started saying all of the bad things she did, the FBI revolted on him. I think they would have literally gone out. That was what was happening. And then he went back and he said, well, let me rethink it, essentially, right? And he had to redo everything. But no, Comey was bad news. I got him out. I got a lot of people out. A lot of people, many people out. But it's deep. It runs deep, and we'll do it. We were interrupted by a thing called the China virus. Yeah. And, you know, we did a great job in that. Never got the credit for the job we did. I ended up handing over a stock market that was higher than just previous to COVID coming in. I did a great job in it. We had empty cupboards from past administrations. And it wasn't me. We had empty cupboards. We didn't have anything. We didn't have gowns. We didn't have masks. We didn't have anything. We didn't have ventilators. We became the king of ventilators. We made them literally. We ended up making them for the whole world. But we did a great job in that. But it was a big interruption, obviously. We have the one interesting thing. I told you this once before. When I came to Washington, I was a New York person, New York developer. I knew New York very well, but I was only in Washington 17 times, didn't know a lot of people, etc. And I came in, and I got to know the people. I know them now. I think I know. I know the good ones and the dumb ones and the smart ones and the bad ones, and I know the people. I know that whole world now very well, and we have unbelievable people that are going to go in, and people that are loyal to our country. I don't want them to be loyal to me. I want them to be loyal to our country.
All right, so at almost 27 minutes into the interview, Gorka asks President Trump probably the most important question in this entire interview. He asks him, how hard is it going to be to drain the swamp completely? We saw how difficult this was in the 4 years before. This is a great response because he doesn't just say we're going to do away with the FBI or anything as broad or as general as that. No, he gets into the specifics. He explains that he knows the people in DC a lot better now than he did back in 2016. He's essentially admitting that he was a bit naive, he was a bit ignorant as to who was corrupt and who was good in DC when he got into the White House in 2016. But now he's much savvier, he's much better informed, and he can cut out the cancer much more effectively. And he says he's got a list of people that he's going to appoint that are great people who will be loyal to the country. And this to me indicates that he is already choosing cabinet members and heads of various departments and agencies who will be able to effectively gut the federal government of the deep state swamp dwellers, slash the administrative state, and to eradicate the political corruption in Washington. And I love to hear it. 8:36 to 10:03.
But do you think it's him? There are lots of theories as to, I mean, you look at him, he's not cognitively competent. Who's really running the country? Is it Obama? Is it Jill? Is it the Obama flunkies across government? Who do you think's really destroying America?
I often ask the same question about him. Is it him? Because he's so out of it. You know, where does he even come up with ideas? I assume that's what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Because you're almost saying, like, as evil as it is, it's like ideas, and it's really bad stuff. And I'm not sure that it's him. I know he must approve it. They must look at him and say, can we do this? And he looks at him with a blank stare and says, yes, right? Nobody. It's the people look, it's Lisa, and it's all these guys that surround that Oval desk. It's guys like Andrew Weissman that, you know, because she essentially works for him. And Lisa Monaco.
At the Department of Justice.
She essentially works for him. So I would say it's her, and it's a group of people that surround that beautiful Resolute desk. I don't know if it's Biden. I don't know. To me, I don't see it because he's so out of it. You don't think he even thinks, he just wants to go to sleep. But he's surrounded by people that are vicious and smart, and they've been after me for years. And they continue onward. And if they devoted the same energy and talent to making America great again, we'd be a much better country right now.
So, wow, Trump named the man he believes to be the shadow president, or I guess the shadow president and shadow vice president. These names I have not actually heard floated as the shadow president before. Everyone says Obama, of course. I've heard the name Susan Rice many times, and these two probably do have a lot of power, maybe even more power than Weissman and Monaco. But according to Donald Trump, this is his best guess as to who's actively running the country day to day. Andrew Weissman, according to Trump, is the shadow president along with his VP, Lisa Monaco.
I recently had a chance to stop by to check out his place and to hear about his weekend routine.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me over. Hello. We see you a lot on television in your apartment.
Yeah, here, yes.
I know. This is like the expanded room raider moment, right? To see a little bit more.
Oh, wait, so these are the stairs.
Yes, these are the stairs.
That first of all, I think everyone thinks they're like, a third of the size because people are like, how could you possibly walk on them?
When I have the MSNBC on in my office, I feel like every time there's breaking legal news, I see you on there explaining it to me. Are you just waiting for your phone in your pocket to buzz with something breaking?
It's so interesting because, I grew up in New York and I'm old, so I'm used to...
Your apartment makes you feel not old and extremely hip, so I don't think you're giving yourself credit.
Extremely hip for like a boring, nerdy lawyer is like a very low
nerdy
bar.
Is hip again.
Right. So we begin this morning with one of the most powerful people in U.S. government, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco. She's someone who you may not know very well, but every single day she's making decisions about all those issues and more.
Are you aware of any time in American history when an attorney general has directed the FBI to begin to intervene in school board meetings?
I'm not aware, and I'm not aware that is not going on. Let me be very,
really,
very
this
clear.
Isn't about local school board meetings? That's not the subject of the memorandum? I thought that was in the memorandum.
The memorandum is quite clear. It's one page, and it asks the U.S. attorney community and the FBI special agents in charge to convene state and local law enforcement partners to ensure that there's an open line of communication to address threats, to address violence, and that's the appropriate role of the Department of Justice to make sure that we are addressing criminal conduct and violence.
You are attempting to intimidate them. You are attempting to silence them. You are attempting to interfere with their rights as parents and, yes, with their rights as voters. This is wrong. This is dangerous. And I cannot believe that an Attorney General of the United States is engaging in this kind of conduct. And frankly, I can't believe that you are sitting here today defending it.
This is a bombshell, I would say. Now, the left would probably say that there are always a variety of people who run the specific aspects of the government and the president just oversees a lot of it. But in the case of Joe Biden, I don't think he has any actual power. Joe Biden gets to go through the motions of approving or rejecting decisions, but at the end of the day, I truly believe that there is a small group of people telling him what he's allowed to do and what he's allowed to say, what he's allowed to approve, what he's allowed to reject. And according to Trump, at the top of that, at least within the immediate sphere of the White House, is Andrew Weissman and Lisa Monaco. And above them, Obama, of course. And above Obama, who knows? I'm sure there are many who do know the answer to that, but I'm not one of them. I'm sure you guys have your own ideas about that. Feel free to type them out in the comments section below. All right, now I'd like to set this next clip up. This is the final clip that I'm going to play for you. This is Trump responding to the question of, how do you bring in the conservative holdouts, the never-Trumper Republicans who want to vote Republican, but for whatever reason, they don't like Trump? And Trump's answer, well, it says a lot. Let's listen.
Talking right now to about 3.5 million people across the country from California to D.C. What is your message for those, Mr. President, who either have given up because of what they saw happen with 2020, or those who are maybe old school Republicans and say, oh, he's not the establishment? What do you say to those who have issues with your style or who think that it's not worth it after 2020?
Well, my style is this way because I've been under siege from the day I came down the escalator. And as you learned, actually for many months before I came down the escalator, because they thought I may run. So they spied on my campaign. They did many, many bad things, and I prevailed. But it continues onward. No, they don't stop, and it continues onward. So people have to understand there's no chaos, but I have to move quickly, and I have to move tough. Otherwise, it's not going to work. They will succeed. And you won't be talking to me anymore about politics. Maybe you'll be talking about real estate or something else, but I doubt that too. So the people have to understand that. If you want chaos, take a look at what's happening on our southern border. We had the safest border in the history of our country. There was no chaos, and everybody agrees. And I got Mexico to give us soldiers free of charge because I would have tariffed them if they didn't, all of the things. But just to answer your question, but I had to put that little caveat in. November 5th is the most important day, in my opinion, in the history of our country. If we don't win this election, if we don't win it, we are going to, I think, possibly cease to be a country. I think it's going to be just some really horrible things. I used to go around saying Venezuela on steroids, but we've cleaned up Venezuela because we've taken so many of their criminals. You know, they're in our system now. They're in our country, and their crime is down. 67% their crime is down in Venezuela, was reported the other day. 67%, because they took all their gang members and most of their criminals and they dumped them into the United States of America. Congratulations, everybody. November 5th is the most important day in the history of our country. Get out and vote. You got to vote. And don't listen to the disinformation and the misinformation, slight difference, that the Democrats feed. It's all they're good at. Cheating in elections and disinformation. It's all they're good at. They give you phony stories, like the bloodbath story. I was talking about our car industry, because our car industry is being decimated by a very stupid mandate, the all electric vehicle mandate. It's one of the many crazy things. Nothing's the most crazy anymore because they're so incompetent. November 5th, you have to get out and vote. and we have to do it. We will swamp them. If we swamp them, they can't cheat. You know, if you swamp them, I don't know if you know this, Sebastian, there's a level at which they can't cheat. Now, we have great people watching. Michael Watley's going to be fantastic. He did a great job in North Carolina, etc. But you got to get out and you got to vote. And it sounds like a long time away, but it's not. Although more than 7 months away is a long time in terms of the current administration, because they'll do tremendous damage to our country in the meantime. But we have to remember that November 5th, just put it in your heads. It sounds like, why are we talking about it? It's going to be upon us very fast. We have to win this election. We have to swamp them. We have to just swamp them and win this election. And we're going to make America great again. It'll happen. And it'll happen much faster than people think.
So Trump answers this question by saying, basically, the Biden administration and the Democrats are going to destroy this country if we let them stay in power. And the Democrats basically lie about Trump nonstop, and that's their primary tactic. So don't believe all the nasty things that Democrats say about Donald Trump, and let's save the country this November. But then he slipped in something particularly interesting, another major moment that I believe is totally newsworthy, something that I've been saying for ages now, but that I've never heard Donald Trump himself say before, which is that if we can get enough votes in November, even if they cheat, we can still beat them. We can beat the cheat. We can vote in such numbers that rigging the election won't even work. He says, swamp them. We've got to swamp them.
We will swamp them. If we swamp them, they can't cheat. You know, if you swamp them, I don't know if you know this, Sebastian, there's a level at which they can't cheat.
And I think I like that. We've got to swamp the swamp. Man, this video had so many bombshells. It's crazy to me that none of this was reported on more broadly. It just goes to show the priorities of the mainstream media. But this was an epic interview that had so many major moments, so many moments that made my eyebrows literally raise up thinking, wow, I'd never heard Trump say that before. I love that Trump is just willing to answer any question that's thrown at him. And he answers honestly and transparently. I just love it. But okay, I promised at the top of the show that I would give you guys my strategy to defeat Joe Biden in 2024. Now, I think Trump needs to do two things right away. One, debate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Two, start treating Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as his 2024 opponent and just completely ignore Joe Biden. Now, let me explain why. Pivoting focus to RFK would accomplish two things. One, it would bring a lot of Democrat voters behind Robert F. Kennedy. This is because anyone who opposes Trump, the left loves them. So if Trump is attacking RFK, or at least making RFK his primary opposition, a lot of Democrats will just jump on board the RFK bandwagon just to oppose Trump, right? That way you split the vote. Now, the second reason this is a smart idea is because there's actually a lot of conservatives who are now considering voting for RFK over Trump. And, you know, RFK, in spite of being an independent thinker and having a lot of interesting ideas about stuff, he is a Democrat. I mean, he's really left on a lot of issues. And so shining a light on those issues, shining a light on those things, it's important in order to bring Republicans who are straying back into the MAGA movement. And, you know, I think they will. I don't think that Trump should attack RFK as viciously as he attacks maybe some of his other opponents, but he does need to clearly distinguish himself from RFK and show why he's the only good conservative candidate. And as I said, he could definitely shift a lot of Democrat voters off of Biden onto RFK if he starts going after him and makes him his chief target. And, just imagine totally ignoring Joe Biden. What a bold move that would be. Ignoring Biden is really a very profound thing to do because it indicates that Trump doesn't think Biden is really worth his time and attention. And it's kind of true. If there were no potential shenanigans in 2024, I think Trump would win the election in a landslide. So I think shifting his attention to RFK would be a monumental move, even if it's just, a temporary thing. RFK could really split the vote on the left. And then, as Trump said, Trump will have so many more votes than Biden, even rigging the election wouldn't work. Trump would just win by too many votes. All right, so that's it. That's my brilliant plan. Maybe you guys agree, maybe you disagree. Let me know in the comment section below. Go buy all my overpriced stuff on Teespring. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much. That is not so. Good night.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.